Imagine a university older than Oxford, brimming with 700,000 manuscripts. A center of learning that European scholars dismissed as a myth. What if I told you it was real? This is the Sankore University of Timbuktu. And its story is just one piece of a much larger, deliberately obscured African past. We're diving deep into the World of African History podcast. Not the sanitized versions you might have heard, but the raw, unfiltered truth being unearthed by historians and storytellers today. Think of this as a BBC documentary colliding head-on with Joe Rogan. We're talking real names, real dates, real events, and the uncomfortable truths that were deliberately left out of the textbooks. Let's start with a name you might know, Mansa Musa. Ruler of the Mali Empire in the 14th century. In 1324, he embarked on a pilgrimage to Mecca, a journey so extravagant it destabilized economies. His caravan included 60,000 people and 24 tons of gold. When he passed through Cairo, he gave away so much gold that he caused massive inflation, devaluing the Egyptian currency by 12 to 20% for years. Eric Chinsky's History of Africa podcast dedicates an entire episode to this incredible event and his influence. The podcast, available on platforms like Podbean and Audible, has dug deep into pre-colonial African history, boasting over 1.2 million downloads. It's one of many sources challenging the Eurocentric narratives. But Mansa Musa is just the tip of the iceberg. What about the lost technologies of Nubia? This ancient kingdom, located in modern-day Sudan and Egypt, developed sophisticated cooling systems 1,000 years before the Common Era. The Nubian Vault. Using cobbled vaults, they could lower temperatures inside buildings by 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. You can find more about this on the African Independent Inventions and Lost Technologies YouTube podcast. These vaults were in use at temples like the Defufa in Kama, built around 2500 BC. Imagine engineering feats rivaling those of Persia, enabling urban centers like Kama to thrive with populations of 30,000 as far back as 1650 BC. Why haven't you heard of this? Why were these stories buried? Let's revisit Timbuktu's Sankore University. Episode 40 of the History of Africa podcast exposes how 19th century scholars dismissed it as a myth. Heinrich Barth, a prominent explorer, and others downplayed its significance. This dismissal served a purpose. It reinforced the idea of European superiority and justified colonial domination. The erasure of African achievements made it easier to portray the continent as a blank slate, ripe for exploitation. Even today, after the 2013 rescue of 2,000 texts from jihadists confirmed the university's scale, UNESCO has only digitized 10% of its manuscripts. The podcast also faced backlash for an episode on the Rwandan genocide in 1994. Allegations of overemphasizing the Hutu power radio's role sparked heated debate. History is rarely simple, especially when dealing with trauma. These historical amnesias have real-world consequences. Chinsky's podcast links the Kanambonu Empire to the modern Boko Haram insurgency around Lake Chad, where conflict has displaced 350,000 people since 2009. Zainab Badawi's series connects the decline of Great Zimbabwe to the climate crisis impacting the Horn of Africa today, where over 23 million people face famine. Even Nubian technology is making a comeback, adopted in the 2025 Cairo Expo City to cool 500,000 square meters. The echoes of the past reverberate in the present. What this podcast reveals is that African history is neither simple nor static. It's a complex tapestry of innovation, resilience, and resistance. From the gold of Mansa Musa to the ingenuity of Nubian engineers, these stories challenge the Eurocentric narratives that have dominated for too long. By amplifying African voices and perspectives, these podcasts are helping to rewrite history, one episode at a time. It's time to question what you were taught, to seek out these alternative narratives, and to recognize the true scope and depth of African civilization. So, consider this: what other African stories have been deliberately hidden from us, and what impact does that erasure have on the world today?